Do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a proven roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. We walk you through the exact same process that we use to run franchise marketing campaigns for our clients at scale that has resulted in triple-digit growth. This blueprint isn't for anyone. It's not for people just starting a franchise. It's not for franchises without long-term goals. This is for franchises that want to scale up their marketing in a predictable and profitable way using a proven roadmap. If you want to sell more franchises, keep your current franchisees happy, and learn from people who have already done it, go to franchisegrowthblueprint.com and sign up today. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. Today, I have a fellow Canadian here, Darryl Sangster from the Sangster Franchise Group. Darryl, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We were talking pre-show that I keep seeing all your fantastic videos up on LinkedIn. So for those who aren't connected with you and don't necessarily know you, what do you do? How do you help franchises grow?
Yeah. So, I'm a 21-year veteran in franchising. Had my own system, for many years. Grew it, expanded, played with everything from supplements to manufacturing to retail, the whole gamut. And today, what I simply do is I support franchisors. I help them. There's so many moving pieces in a franchise system that when I was a franchisor, there weren't a lot of mentors that were, I guess, both knowledgeable, experienced, I guess is more of the word. And that could help and provide. So, I fell in love with the CFA because that was my one educational source when I was a franchisor, was to be able to learn from, how do I get better? Because when you're at the top of the food chain, so to speak, and you're running your company, everybody expects you to have all the answers, but you're thirsting for knowledge just like every other person on this planet.
Mm-hmm. So that's fantastic. First of all, providing resources for franchisors. So, what areas do you help them grow?
So most of the demand that a franchisor is looking for is expansion, is growth. That's the root of a lot of it. So a lot of what I provide is uh, analyzing where in their system they need that help. A lot of times it's system optimization. So, for example, they think maybe I just need leads to expand, but yet when the leads come in, they have no process for nurturing or dating, or like it's straight for the jugular or nothing, and then they wonder why they're not expanding. And it's like, well, okay, let's take a step back. We have to build some trust. We have to communicate with these leads once the lead actually comes in. So that's some of my work. Some of it's sales directed, just on helping them with their actual sales funnel, etc.
Very cool. And you know what? It sounds like the age old analogy of trying to ask someone to get married before even taking them on a date.
Absolutely. So, I have used that analogy a lot because I like it, because it's as simple as dating. So if you go to a date and you're on your first date and you come out of the gates and you're just talking about how great you are and how, everything about you and what makes you amazing, do you think the other person that's sitting across the table cares? Of course they don't. Like you've just sat down and talked all about yourself and haven't expressed any interest on what they actually want or to learn anything about them. So in the franchise world, it's exactly the same. A lot of franchise systems come out of the gates and talk right immediately about how great they do this and how they're a leader in that. And these are all important aspects, but not out of the gates. Like you gotta talk to them and learn about them and encourage whatever it is. Like, why are they looking to invest? You know, is it lifestyle? Is it balance? Is it income? Is it wealth? Like, why are they there? And express that interest in them as
Mhm.
the investor, and then you start to build that relationship. So yes, I use that analogy a lot because I do think it's very similar to the dating world. Like, if if I was dating and came out of the gates all hot and heavy, no, I would never get a second date. Like, you just don't. So you have to make it about them and speak to the investor and be sincere about what it is that they want out of this potential deal.
So that that's very interesting, and you hit the nail right on the head. So how do you, I guess, balance that mindset of not trying to kind of go for that jugular, and learn more about prospective franchisees and these leads, while still trying to balance rapid growth for your system?
Yeah, and it's a very good question because again, everybody does want growth. They want that sale, but desperation comes into the play. People can tell when somebody else is desperate for to close a sale. Respect in your system comes into play. So, for example, if somebody says to you, yeah, I'm interested in your franchise, and they're like, yeah, well, I'll send you the document and we'll be off to the races. Well, it's like, well, like, you don't have no process, you have no structure. Is this how your entire organization is run, et cetera? So, when it comes to balancing the nurturing process, the system, along with the sales, I do believe that it's both. Like, so when I talk to clients, it's explaining that yes, the ultimate goal is the sale, but you won't get there unless you build some trust. And yes, you need some of the so-called boring information, like the application or the form or the NDA, and you need some of these financial statements, and you do have to talk about some of that. But there's a time and a place. You don't have to go for their financial statement on the second time that you've talked to them on the phone, and they don't know you. Why, what gives you the right to be even going after all that information? Like, build some trust. So what I do with my system is balance the education component, which is what the investor needs. Like, hands down, they don't want to sign anything right now. So give them, build your process so that you're educating them all about what it is your system does, how your business model works. Of course, you can't talk earnings, but you can talk business model and percentages so that somebody has a clear picture of, okay, if I generate $100,000 in sales or $1 million in sales, what does your business model kind of look like? So I have an idea of, can I make money? How do I make money, et cetera, in this business? So to answer your question, it's a balance between education and salesmanship to actually expand.
Great. So I'm curious, Daryl, as like, if I were a franchisor just starting out and I don't have these systems in place, where is a good start? What is that first step I should be taking?
Well, there's a couple first steps. You either have to have funding or partnerships, and you have to be open to something, because again, doing it alone is the probably the hardest piece, and what most people will advise against, because there's a lot of complexities in that. Now, in order to um, hire somebody like myself or literally 20 other really good professionals in the industry, um, you need that guidance. You need somebody to hold your hand through that process. So yes, of course, there's little pieces of the puzzle, and you can build a franchise system on your own. There's no denying that, but it's extremely hard. And if you look at it just as if you're a franchisee joins your system to be coached and carried along. Well, you as a franchisor, if you're just beginning, talk to somebody like myself, and like I said, there's 30 other colleagues in the industry that um, that can provide that hand-holding guidance along the way. Because there are, I'll just give you an example. I've been contacted by a young company, and they had a couple of units, and they contacted me and said, okay, you know what, I got somebody who wants a franchise and all this. And I told them that, I'd charge them 1% royalty, I think that's probably good. And I'm like, just for the record, typical, you're looking at, 5, 6, 7% royalty, and 1, 2, 3% marketing ad fund. Like, you've just left so much on the table. And his response was, damn, I should have contacted you earlier. But the point is, like, there's and then you're not even getting into the legalities behind it, because here he's talking to an investor or potential investor, and he has no concept of the FDDs and that process behind franchising and making all these statements and sharing all this information that he shouldn't be. So again, for somebody starting out, my advice is get a hold of somebody like myself that can provide some hand-holding and some direction, because it'll be well worth your investment and save you thousands in the long run.
That's a great point. So let's unpack that a little more. What should franchisors be looking for when they're reaching out to people like you or similar colleagues in the industry?
Yeah. So what are they looking for? They're looking for experience first and foremost. And there's a lot of good former franchisors that have that, um, you know, stripe, so to speak, that have that mark, that, because it's an industry that, there isn't a lot of skilled knowledge. So finding somebody that has the knowledge is an asset. Finding somebody with the knowledge and the experience is a huge asset. So, when you're looking for that, look for their background, because again, salesmanship is in all of our blood as entrepreneurs. So you're not going to find a consultant in the industry that doesn't know how to sell. The reality is we can all sell, because that's in our DNA. We have to understand that salesmanship makes up our businesses. But when you ask the question of what should somebody look for, look for that knowledge, that experience that comes from being that in that game, that ownership, that off recording, we were talking about some of the videos, and I just want to bring up one real quick, which was, when I speak to my audience, I speak from a place of knowing that, when I was a franchisor, and what was waking me up at literally 4:30 in the morning, and what was that pain, and what was that frustration. And so when I speak and record a video and put it out there, I'm resonating with my audience, because they get that. But an employee in the industry might have knowledge of system optimization and understanding of franchise FDDs, etc. But they themselves never woke up at 4:30 a.m. with that exact same pain point. And there's an understanding that comes from that.
So speaking of, all the deep industry experience that you have, what other mistakes are franchisors making when they're trying to grow? And I feel like you have a laundry list of them right now.
I do. So COVID actually killed this topic for us. I was asked to speak at the CFA in April of 2020 here. And of course, with COVID, the annual convention was put on hold and canceled. But the topic was the 5 most common franchisor mistakes. And again, just a few. Obviously, not having that system and going after that dollar is of course the biggest one. And you talk to any franchisor who's opened up and had units, and again, you're building a system, and you might have 20 or 40 or 60 partners, and now you have 6 or 7 of them that are a problem every day. Like they're so upset with whatever it was, and then you turn back the clock and you look and go, geez, yeah, you know what, I did kind of rush that deal. You know, I was kind of, I needed the money, I'm trying to expand. So I just, I let it slip. When I saw this before I signed them into the franchise, there were some red flags, but I ignored them and I let them in. And once they're in, now they're not happy as a partner. You're not happy as a franchisor. And then you're stuck with this legalities of trying to undo this relationship. So, one of the biggest problems that early franchisors make is accepting the franchise fee, the money, going after that money, with a few blinders on.
I love that, because that has been a very, very common topic that just keeps coming up over and over again. And I'm so glad that you're touching on it. So from your expertise, what are you asking? What are you doing to help filter those candidates out during that sales process?
We'll get right back to the show, but do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. To find out more, visit franchisegrowthblueprint.com. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Now back to today's episode.
So I recommend to my clients, and I use, of course you have some, like I said, you have some basic metrics, you have some forms that, you're looking for an investment, you need some money. You can't come to the table with, $758 in your bank account and say, okay, I want this business though. I really want it. Like some metrics are required in that, but, one of the guiding principles that I teach as far as to my clients and I myself learned is through the process. Now, if the process is designed to communicate, which it should be, the investor's trying to learn, so you're trying to provide them with as much information. You're almost kind of like a teacher. You're feeding them with all this information. You're not pushing sales. What you're doing is carrying them through this process. But once you get to, you've passed the FDD, you've dissected the agreements, you've talked some of the stuff. You ask yourself, is this a potential partner that I could have a legitimate business dispute with, and would he or she resolve it with respect? And that's it. And that to me is the guiding principle, because we will argue. We will not agree. Like we're, in business, it's exchange of financial resources. There's money at play. Money is stressful. There will be disputes in a 10 or 15-year relationship. You're going to not agree with an invoice or a product or an auto ship or whatever your system does. And it comes down to money. So if you have that dispute, can this person just who they are as a character, will this person blow a gasket or, and make my receptionist cry and be this huge problem? Or will this person pick up the phone as a professional and say, look, Darryl, I disagree. I strongly disagree. I don't want to pay this invoice. Here's why. And let's get to the bottom of this. So that right there, and that's a gut metric. That's nothing other than, so when franchisors are moving a lead through stages and getting close, I keep reminding them that should be that metric. You got to ask them, because you're dealing with all these different personalities, and there isn't one perfect personality. But you can, if you've done your job and communicated, you should be able to answer the question of, is this the type of guy who's going to just lose his mind if he doesn't get his own way, or she doesn't get her own way? Or is this person going to be able to have a professional dispute? And it's okay. Like, it's okay for us to disagree and have a dispute. We don't have to be disrespectful. We don't have to, like, we can resolve this there, so that's my advice.
I love that. And I'm really happy that you brought it up and that you mentioned that, you can expect any relationship, whether it's, with fellow franchisees, with partners, whomever, to be perfect all the time, right? There will inevitably be some friction between you. And I would even be so bold that, that friction can be positive as well, because, you're seeing and helping kind of bubble up opportunities for improvement.
Absolutely. So, back when I was a franchisor, in my system, I had read that a large national company, the CEO would visit each location once a year, and I was blown away when I read that, because I thought, well, that person is a lot bigger than me, and if he finds value in doing this, maybe I should. So this is back in 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. I started up, and it took me 3 months, and balancing life and work and everything and travel. But over the course of 3 months, I went and spent and arranged meetings in my franchisees locations personally. So here's the CEO, the president is sitting with them. And in most cases, they were worried. They didn't know what was going on, at least at the beginning. And I sat them down individually. We'd sit in their back room. It'd be a small little broom closet type, retail environment. And we'd sit there, and they would always, it was always the same at the beginning. They were nervous about, why are you here? And I would say, look, I have no agenda. I have an hour and a half. And so what's going on? Like, how's it going? And as soon as I would start talking to them, then they would realize there's no fear there, and all of a sudden things would come up, and they would say, you know what? And I'll give you one example. There was a return policy, and my franchise was a 35-year-old company that I ended up buying. So there were processes that were very old, and this was an example of one. So I had multiple franchisees bring up this topic from Ontario to Saskatchewan to BC. And then when I'm sitting there in my office analyzing all this, I'm like, well, they're not all ganging up against me. Like, it doesn't feel good when somebody tells you your system is broken, or pieces are, this is no good, or I don't like that. Like, those are all hard pieces to hear. But I realized, when I had enough of these franchisees telling me that this one process was broken, I looked at it, and it was a return policy, and it would take, like, on average 45 to 60 days to receive their $8.42 credit. And so, and again, what had happened was, it went through so many hands. The process was old, it just wasn't modernized. And it took me 2 days of taking the entire system, rewriting that system, and turning it into a 48-hour turnaround time. And all departments in the company were happy. Everybody got their little stamp. Accounting's happy, and sales were happy, and marketing. Everybody was happy. But again, it's the result of that communication, that that and like I said, it wasn't good or fun information to hear, because somebody is telling you, as a franchisor, that what you have is no good, and that's hard to hear. But the result is, the silver lining to that is, you can hear about where your weaknesses are, and then you can correct them. And that's a simple, 2 days worth of work, and my return policy was rewritten.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And it like, for such a small investment, you're making a world of difference to the franchisees within your system. And I'm sure it helps create a stickier system as well.
Well, yeah, and then there's the whole side of, you know what? He actually heard me, right? Like, so, whatever, in that scenario, there was 8 or 9 franchisees that had brought that up just randomly over that 3-month period. So those 8 or 9 are now all sitting there going, "See, I told him, and he listened." Right? And they all think it was them. But the point is, there's that, you know what? He's going to listen to what is not right in my business. This is my business. This is what I'm running, and it's a legitimate frustration.
Mhm. I love
Yeah.
it. I absolutely love it, Darryl. So we're getting to the end of the episode, and the way I like to end all of them is with something I call the lightning round. So
Okay,
it's just a few fast-paced questions coming at you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First question is, what is your favorite tool or app that you cannot live without?
Oh, LinkedIn.
Great tool. Great tool. And we actually met on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Next question is, what is your favorite book?
Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Fantastic book. Next question is, who is a franchise leader that you look up to?
Oh, have to be my father. He's no longer with us, but he was my mentor for all those years, and the result of what I'm doing today. Because, like I said, he was he was who I could go to for help in the franchise world, and yeah, so hands down.
Awesome. And Darryl, last question, I promise. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
SangsterFranchiseGroup.com, but even more so, my LinkedIn under Darryl Sangster, and the Franchise Wolf YouTube channel. Those are all the spots that you can find and see whatever I have out there and who I am.
Awesome. Darryl, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your insights and knowledge and expertise with listeners.
Well, thank you, Jordan. I really appreciate the time here and the opportunity to speak.
Of course. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. If you found this episode useful, share it with a friend and subscribe now so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And until then, happy marketing.